All right, let's jump right in. Welcome to today's explainer. I am really excited to walk you through a highly structured and absolutely essential framework, Peacekeeper Support Operations. Since you're likely already familiar with the inner workings of assembly courts, trial juries, and due process, today we're going to look strictly at the operational blueprint of the protectors who actually maintain order within these systems.
So here's our operational blueprint for today. We're covering 6 main pillars. 1. The peacekeeper role. 2. Community and meeting support. 3. Court and witness operations. 4. Communications and reporting. 5. Accountability and ethics. And 6. Challenges and best practices. Let's get to it.
Section 1. The Peacekeeper Role, defining the operational scope.
So what exactly is a peacekeeper? At its core, a peacekeeper's fundamental purpose is to be the natural protector of the community. Unlike roles that operate under corporate or commercial jurisdictions, peacekeeping officials, think actual county sheriffs and their deputies, are strictly grounded in enforcing public and organic law. Their whole operational scope is basically defined by protecting property, people, and the constitutional guarantees of everyone living within their county lines. They're literally the organic backbone of public safety.
And looking at this, you can see exactly how the Peacekeeper framework fits into the broader operational structure. Think of the assembly as a vehicle, right? The General Assembly is sitting in the driver's seat, but the whole thing is held up by 4 distinct pillars: the General Assembly itself, the International Business Assembly, the state courts, and the State Assembly Militia. Peacekeepers are seamlessly woven in here, especially within those militia and jural pillars. They provide the necessary stability to keep the whole machine running smoothly.
Moving to Section 2, Community and Meeting Support, Safety and Security Functions. Now, public safety isn't just about defense against human threats. Actually, it's way broader than that. Beyond your standard security, peacekeeper operations put a huge emphasis on proactive emergency response and vital community resilience training. We're talking about facilitating disaster preparedness exercises, helping set up community food storage or seed banks, and even organizing natural healing centers. The goal here is building a self-sustaining, secure community literally from the ground up.
What's really fascinating here is the specific role of the Marshal at Arms when it comes to meeting support. Whenever an assembly meets, the Marshal at Arms is the go-to officer for ensuring strict safety and decorum. They're the ones preventing disruptions, securing the physical location, and even working closely with election committees to keep ballots safe. It's a highly specialized function purely dedicated to protecting the democratic process itself.
All right, on to Section 3, Court and Witness Operations, Upholding Due Process.
Since you guys already know the ins and outs of trial and grand juries, you know for a fact that courts absolutely cannot function in chaos. Peacekeepers work seamlessly alongside existing court officers to make sure there's a level playing field. They rigorously enforce the rules of American common law, due process, and evidence handling. But, and this is a crucial distinction, they do not rule on facts. That is strictly the jury's job. The peacekeeper is just there to secure the proceedings so the assembly justices and juries can do their jobs without any interference.
To weed out false allegations and really protect witnesses, peacekeepers use some pretty strict protocols. A great example is reading the Bivens Declaration out loud right at the start of meetings. This is an absolutely vital witness management tool. Basically, it forces anyone who might be attending under false pretenses or acting as an undisclosed agent to either declare themselves or leave the room. It's just a structured, practical way to ensure privacy, prevent entrapment, and keep evidence handling and witness testimony completely solid.
Which brings us to Section 4, Communications and Reporting, Administrative Integrity.
Operational integrity relies almost entirely on proper documentation. The requirements here aren't just suggestions, they are absolute. For instance, when a sheriff issues a temporary deputy star, it's meticulously tracked using a strict sign-in and sign-out log. Every single meeting's time, date, and quorum has to be recorded. And then all these communications and records get routed directly to the recording secretary. It creates an unbroken, airtight paper trail of accountability.
Here you can see the final step of that reporting procedure in action: record keepers and public notaries physically stamping and authenticating official documents. In this physical stamping process, it's way more than just busy work or administration. It serves as actual evidence of the political status of the actors involved and officially secures the public record. It guarantees that every action taken by the courts and peacekeepers is lawfully affirmed.
Moving right along to Section 5, Accountability and Ethics, the Standards of Office.
It's super fascinating to compare these roles directly based on the source material we're looking at.
See, peacekeepers don't take religious oaths or feudal pledges of allegiance. Instead, they make a very clear public acknowledgement of their duties. On top of that, they actually avoid corporate surety bonds, which are tied to commercial codes, and opt to be held under private indemnity bonds instead. This fundamentally shifts their accountability directly to the public and to the preservation of public law. It's a real game changer in how liability works.
Because they carry this private indemnity and are held to such an incredibly high standard, an effective peacekeeper really has to master some severe ethical responsibilities. I mean, they need to be strong, natural protectors, absolutely, but without the ego. They have to be endlessly patient and practically impossible to trigger emotionally. And perhaps most importantly, they must have a deep, working knowledge of public law and constitutional guarantees. Why? So they can safely de-escalate a situation before it even has a chance to spiral out of control.
Take a really close look at these stars. These are definitely not your typical mass-produced badges. These stars are the tangible, strictly defined symbols of a peacekeeper's public accountability. I mean, every single element is strictly regulated, down to the specific font size and the jeweler's maker's mark engraved right on the back. It represents their sworn duty and that heavy private liability they carry when stepping up to protect the community.
And that brings us to our final pillar, Section 6, Challenges and Best Practices, Navigating Operational Hurdles.
So let's ask the critical question here. What actual day-to-day hurdles do these protectors face when they're out there trying to maintain order, run public meetings, and ensure due process?
Well, peacekeepers frequently have to navigate some pretty complex human threats. Looking at the operational guidelines, these challenges range from just managing basic group friction or gossip during public meetings, all the way to de-escalating really emotionally heated legal disputes. And on a much more severe level, they're trained to identify deliberate operational disruptors. Individuals whose sole goal is to derail the assembly process, commandeer proceedings, or act as undisclosed agents. It's a lot to handle.
But to overcome those challenges, peacekeepers rely on some highly structured best practices. They definitely don't just wing it. They strictly enforce participation guidelines and consistently use tools like that Bivens declaration we mentioned earlier to filter out bad faith actors. And most importantly, they don't operate in a vacuum. They lean heavily on the structural support of the entire assembly, really relying on the seamless coordination between the militia, the courts, and the business sectors.
Notice how vital the synergy is in this setup. A peacekeeper, like a marshal at arms, works hand in hand with a fair, impartial meeting moderator. The moderator is the one keeping the meeting on track and guiding the discussion, while the marshal really only steps in to enforce the boundaries that the moderator sets. It's a fantastic teamwork dynamic that prevents any single person from dominating the room, keeping the whole environment safe and focused.
So when you strip away all the noise, what you're left with is a highly organized, deeply accountable framework designed purely for public protection. It kind of makes you think about the security systems operating in your own community, right? Are they anchored in this level of personal accountability and public law? It's definitely a question worth exploring further, because ultimately, as we've seen throughout this explainer today, peacekeeper support operations help maintain safety, order, accountability, and effective community coordination.